Right.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the Liberty First Foundation Weekly Roundtable. With me tonight is Frank, IRS Agent Johnson. Yeah, it's kind of
Good evening.
how they are adding another 87,000 IRS agents or staff to the IRS. Um, when supposedly these taxes aren't supposed to affect anybody making less than $400,000 a year.
Well, we all know what math is. Math is spooky.
Well, I find it kind of interesting. Biden's touting how well his economy is doing when we have inflation for what the past 6 months has been at 40-year highs. This is the first time it's actually slowed down.
I don't know why you're saying there's inflation. They said there's no inflation.
What's that?
The the spokesgirl, the little chick with the short hair and the curls over there, she said that there is no inflation.
Oh yeah,
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 this quarter had absolutely no inflation in it. So I don't exactly know where
yeah. I
they're
don't
saying
know.
that there's inflation. I mean, I
Well,
haven't seen the prices of anything. Well, I don't know. The
well,
ammunition sure is not
yeah. We've
inexpensive.
got record high inflation. We've got record high food prices. We got gas prices that are
Ammunition sure
up
is
over
not. Yeah, we got
300% what they
record high
were prior
inflation.
to Biden coming into office. And they are, I mean, we've got catastrophic housing. We've got record high evictions. We have record high foreclosures. Where exactly is this economy doing so well?
Well, the evictions. I'm not gonna come down too hard on the eviction numbers because once the whole rent forgiveness kind of twilighted, and nobody, because you remember, they were making it very, very difficult for landowners and property owners to collect rent during COVID because everybody was out of work by being forced to be out of work. And they decided that, well, you can't evict people for a period of time. Well, once that sunsetted, you have people that are sitting in apartments that have been living there 14, 15, 16 months without paying a dime's rent, even though they were getting, checks from the government, having, their unemployment benefits being extended time and time. So you have a lot of property owners that said, okay, listen, now that everything's over and you're back to work, it's time to start forking over that back rent. Well, a lot of people are very reluctant to do that, because you're
Mm-hmm.
looking at probably on average rent, maybe $1,200. So $15,000 is what most property owners wound up being out. They're not getting that money, and if you got somebody who refused to pay the rent, and now they're not going to want to pay an increase in the rent to try and make up for all the rent that's being lost, I can understand why evictions are on the rise. That I can see. So I'm not going to chalk that up as a strictly let's blame the administration, because some of that started under the previous, a
Oh,
lot of the stuff with the shutdown. So
it
I
did.
mean, I'm going to
Okay.
be fair about that. And then,
And actually, I'm going to chalk it up to the states. Okay, because the states were the ones really enacted these rent mandates. Okay, essentially saying, well, you guys don't have to pay rent. But many of the other factors that we're seeing with the economy, um, there's a lot more to it. Okay, besides rent, the food costs, the cost of gas, the cost of heating your home, the cost of um I mean, you name it. And then, like I said, you got record number of foreclosures happening as well. Okay, I mean, the housing industry is in a shambles right now because of foreclosures, and nobody is able to actually sell any houses.
Well, we've
It's
seen a
like needed.
precipitous decline in how quickly houses have been moving. Just here in North Carolina, we actually for a while the house across the street from us went for sale, and I watched as the real estate agents just last summer get out of a car, walked over, put a sign in the lawn said "Coming soon," took a picture of it, took the sign down, put a sign in the lawn that said "For sale," took a picture of it, took the sign down, put a sign up said "Under contract," took a picture of it, and then put a sign that said "Sold" on it. Within a 10-minute period of time, the house it was coming soon, on the market, in contract, and sold in under 10 minutes because everything was done before it even actually hit the
Right.
public. So they were just doing it for the photography end of it. And I watched that laughing to myself. I'm like, oh my God, the houses are moving quick down here. Now we're starting to see there's been a little bit of the for sale signs are staying up a little bit longer. I mean, they're still moving pretty quick down here because people are migrating here in droves, to get out of the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. They're coming here from California. They're coming here from from the West Coast like crazy. Not to the extent that it was, but they also got into the building boom. There's not a 10 square foot plot of land anywhere within 30 miles of here, of the Charlotte, New York, North Carolina area, that doesn't have a condo going up on it. So, I mean, they've been building like crazy. The properties, they go up overnight, whether or not that speaks to the demand of housing or that speaks to the quality of the houses that are being built. I'm not going to, cast judgment. But, I'm starting to see where we have a development right around the corner from us. Luxury ranch homes, 20 of them being built in this beautiful community. They were sold out before they even, leveled the ground out. They didn't put a shovel to the ground, and every unit was sold out. Now we're seeing places that are going up, and you have, 10 sections in a community that they're trying to build. And normally they would have already put in all the underground plumbing, all the water, you'll get the electric underground and everything. They're only doing half. They're trying to sell that half first before they finish developing the back half. So things are starting to slow down a little bit, and it's nothing happens overnight, except unless you have a stock market crash where everybody panics all at one time, does a run on the banks and everything. This is going to be a
Oh, these are
gentle slope to the bottom.
yeah.
But the further you travel down the slope, the faster things are going to start moving.
Okay, this is okay. Admittedly, this is a lagging indicator of inflation and other factors. But let's see. Since the beginning of 2022, okay, roughly about March, we're seeing 1,800 new houses started. Right now, we're seeing about 1,450. So there's a huge decline in the number of new houses being built. Um, Compared to okay, and like I said, the high was in March, and that's when things were looking good. Inflation really wasn't hitting. The houses that were started in March were actually planned before inflation started hitting. And that's what we're seeing now is we're seeing houses that were planned after inflation started hitting, and we're seeing that decline in the market. Um, and I mean it's been steadily going down month over month, and I think we're going to see it bottom out here, or not bottom out. We're going to see it continue to go down over the next few months.
Well, everybody got $100 raise. Did you hear that one? Everybody got $100 raise this year, this month, because
Yeah, because gas
gas
prices are
prices
low.
came down, and according to CNN, we're all $100 richer, even, but they won't say that we're 300 poorer to begin with. But now that the gas prices are coming down, the administration has no uh, power over gas prices, but they're willing to take all the credit in the world for it when they come down, while bearing no responsibility for it when the prices go up. And then their mouthpieces in the media turn around and talk about how lovely it is that they get a raise, that we get a raise after we've been being robbed. So, take that for what it's worth. As far as we have one comment here is about rifles being given to the teachers. We have long been advocates of
Yeah.
allowing teachers to be able to defend themselves in their classrooms and their schools, because as a firearm instructor, I can tell you the police department are not your first responder. You are your first responder, because you're the first person who's there when the crap hits the fan. And if you have teachers that are ready, willing, able, and are being trained to defend their classrooms, defend their students and the schools, we are 100% behind the idea. We're not necessarily thrilled with some of the plans we've seen so far, but we'll see how they bear out, with the armament being used to secure the school is located in one part of the school, while you have a campus that's generally spread out over a larger area. So you're kind of hedging your bets on whether, if there is an attack on your school or a situation that arises, that the person authorized to get to that firearm and use it may or may not have the time or the logistics in order to get there. So, I mean, we're also believers that sidearms are very effective, and if more teachers were able to conceal carry, or at least have immediate access to a readily available firearm that the kids are not able to get to, we're proponents of that as well.
I actually think that
as Rocco says,
rifles.
How do you feel about one entrance and one exit? Well, listen, we posed the challenge to people many times. Listen, on your lunch hour from work, drive by your kid's school and just walk around the school and check the doors. If you have a single door on that school that's unlocked, your school is not protecting your kids. Well, points of entry and entry and egress are the most vulnerable points, and you have to be able to man those points and make sure that you have limited access to the schools. Having one point of entrance is a lot easier than, because you can't have one point of egress, because God forbid you do have an emergency, whether it be an active shooter, an explosive device, incendiary device, a fire or something. You got to get as many people out of the facility as possible, as quickly as possible, and give as many options as possible. It's not necessarily as important when getting kids into the school. However, there's also a school of thought that says, look at what we have at the airport. We have a concentrated security area where to get to the gate, where you have 100 planes taking off and landing, every single person who is going to those airplanes are being funneled into one area. If you're somebody who wants to do a maximum amount of carnage, you're going to go to the area that has the maximum amount of people. So concentrating everybody into one area is a choke point, and you're allowing somebody to have easy access to a much broader variety of targets, as opposed to spreading people out. So there's good and bad about, in every scenario. The idea is you have to try and tailor your security systems for what works best with your facility, and then have enough people there to man it security wise.
Okay, Solstice Manshire says it's not about interests. We need to hire more police. Um, you can hire more police, but the whole key is how quickly can those police respond? Okay, a teacher's on site. Yeah, if um, you have police on site at schools, yeah, maybe they can respond. But we saw at Uvalde that wasn't necessarily the case. We also saw that the same thing in the Florida shooting. I'm trying to remember the name. Um, where David Hogg was.
Newtown.
No, he wasn't
No,
in
not Newtown. I don't know.
Parkland.
Parkland.
Yeah, Parkland, Florida.
Well,
Okay, police were on site.
he
They
was
didn't respond.
allegedly there. He was allegedly
Yeah.
at the school.
But we had law enforcement on site, armed law enforcement on site at Parkland. They didn't respond. We had armed law enforcement on site in Uvalde. They did not respond. Okay, they waited in both instances. And what was the result of them waiting? A lot of people lost their lives. Okay, so I don't think that's the answer is necessarily hiring more police. I actually think it is having teachers that, if they want and choose to be armed, to be allowed to do so in the schools. I also highly recommend, I don't require it, but I don't recommend requiring it, but I do highly recommend that these teachers be trained. Okay, and they be ran through these scenarios so that they know how to handle these types of situations.
Well, and plus, when you talk about having people there, uh, if I'm sure everybody's heard of something called the flight or fight mechanism. It's something that every one of us, every animal has it. It's when danger arises, you have two options: you can fight or you can flee. Well, one of the most incredible things that somebody can do is race to the sound of violence, because the sound of violence is over there. If you're not under direct threat and you run to the threat, that's an incredible thing to do. It goes against almost everything ingrained in you. It's a superhuman response to a threat. So when you see something happening like what happened in Uvalde and you've got a 45-minute wait, or you see what happened in the nightclub in Florida where police waited 4 hours to breach the walls and go in there and save those people from that shooter, you have a situation where if you don't have the people that have that instinct to run to the sound of fire, they're not going to. So the best reliance you have on putting an end to that situation is because you have people that are immediately confronting that threat, and they're going to use the fight or flight mechanism. So they're more than likely going to respond appropriately, or at least you would hope. There's more of a likelihood that somebody on the receiving end is going to fight versus the likelihood of somebody running in towards that
fire. Well, if somebody feels like they are defending themselves, they're much more likely to take action than in defense of others. Okay, that is a given fact. But another thing that we do know is through extensive training, okay, which our military goes through, and this is how they actually train our military to handle these events so that they run towards gunfire instead of running away from it. Intensive training helps lessen that flight response and helps increase the fight response when people are in danger. So that's one of the reasons why we do recommend that people be trained. If you are going to arm yourself, which we are huge advocates for, if you're going to arm yourself, you need to get the training. It is your responsibility. Okay.
Well, it's
So
nice to see that some of the people.
says
It's nice to see that some of the people in the chat take, security so important and take rights so important that they, come up with some of the comments that they come up with. It's just amazing to me.
So Social Spanshine says, "What's your stance on taking away guns entirely?" Solstice, again, we've seen in places where they have taken away guns that, yeah, gun violence numbers, and mind you, that is violence committed with a gun, okay? Because I actually hate the term gun violence, but violence committed with a gun, those numbers actually go down. But other types of violence actually tends to increase in those areas. We've seen that in England, where England was working towards banning knives because people stabbings were getting out of control. We've seen in places like Chicago where shootings. Chicago is one of the worst places as far as gun restrictions there is, and we see constantly Chicago having double-digit numbers every day of shootings, even though gun control is such a priority in Chicago. We're seeing this across the nation wherever we have um, high amount of gun laws or gun restrictions. We're seeing an increase in violent crime. In California, we're seeing it. We're seeing it in New York. I mean, every place where they've enacted extreme gun restrictions, we see an increase in violent crimes. Yeah, you may see a slight decrease in quote unquote gun violence, but in other avenues, if you actually take measurements of other factors, you will actually see an increase in violence. And there's been multiple studies that prove this out.
Firearms are not the problem. The problem is you have evil in the world. You have people that are willing to commit evil. And as long as you have evil in the world, you have to be able to equip the people to fight that evil with the best tools available. So if you're going to ban guns for people, all you're going to do is promote them to have another means of committing atrocities, and you're going to now restrict the ability of other people to defend against those atrocities. So, an armed society is a polite society.
Okay. I agree with you, Joseph. Police do not respond very fast. Okay. Even if they do have a record response time, the average response time for law enforcement across the nation is 9 minutes. Okay. In 9 minutes, a lot of damage can be done in an active shooting scenario. Even if they are on scene in 2 minutes, it's still too long. Okay. If you have people inside that are armed, whether they're law enforcement, whether they're trained security, or whether they're teachers, they can respond far quicker than anybody can respond from the outside. Far quicker. Um, I mean, it's just physics. Okay. I mean, there's amount of time that anybody from the outside is going to take to respond to any incident, regardless what it is.
Yeah, usually we have 2 or 3 additional people in here that are helping us monitor the chat. And tonight it seems that we have a very feisty variety of ridiculous commentary coming from people. It's glad to know how seriously everybody takes things. That this is where they come to voice their opinions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have a lot going on. Okay. And um, absolutely, Joseph. I mean, that's part of what we're here. We're here for um, I mean, we aren't we aren't the most knowledgeable people on all of this stuff, but we are going to put our viewpoints forth. And if you disagree with us, that's great. That's we actually encourage you to challenge us on our positions. We challenge anybody, okay, and we will have an honest dialogue with anybody that wishes. I'm having a hard time speaking tonight. Wishes to challenge our position. Um, so Mildred Roach says, "Where can I get 24/7 protection?" Mildred, you are your own protection, plain and simple. If you want 24/7 protection, you can pay for it. And there are a lot of people, a lot of armed security that will gladly take your money. But if you can't afford that, your only other recourse is yourself.
Or you could do what so many in this country do, and that's depend on the government by going to jail. You want to be protected 24 hours a day, let somebody else take care of it for you. Go get yourself locked up. That would work pretty well, Mildred.
Well, but you can't remain in general pop. Okay, if you stay in general population, you're still at risk. You actually need to do something so bad that you get yourself put in a supermax, and while you're in there, get yourself put in segregation or solitary confinement. Okay, that's the only way that you're actually going to truly be safe. And then, depending on whether or not the guards have it in for you, you still have a risk. Okay, I mean there is no such thing as total security, plain and simple. Um, it's up to you to take actions to make yourself as secure as possible, but it's ultimately there is no such thing as total security, plain and simple. Okay. So we're discussing Biden and the economy earlier until we got on the shooting and all that stuff. I'm trying to follow the chat a little bit here too while I'm doing this, and I see a bunch of comments that are kind of goofy, but that's beside the point. At least we got people talking, so and that's great. We encourage people to have a discussion.
Oh, and
But
as far as and Jan asked what my choice of beverage this evening was. It's Dos Equis.
so mine's Mountain Dew as usual.
Yeah, I'm treating myself to my bi-monthly beer this evening.
So
And it was mostly because I reached into the fridge to grab a Manhattan Special and grabbed the wrong bottle as I was heading up to the office. So I said, "Frigate, I'm here. I'm not going down the stairs again, not on this bum ankle." So I said, "Screw it. I'll enjoy one of these for today."
okay, so some other events that happened this week. Um, Liz Cheney is not going to be reelected this year.
Well, at least not to any office within Washington, D.C., which marks the first time in, what was it, 56 years that there is not a member of the Bush or Cheney families involved in any office in Washington.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of the 14,000 nieces or nephews associated with those clans are involved in any local politics. I don't follow them closely enough to give a shit, but at least they're not in Washington at the moment. Whether or not that translates into, a better outcome this November, over the grand scheme of things, at least we won't have to deal with certain people after that. So that's always a
Very
good thing.
true.
But well, look, all it's going to mean is that you're going to have one more talking head on MSNBC
Oh yeah.
or CNN because Brian Setzer just got himself canned today. They just canceled him on his show. So
Okay, Joseph, you are done. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do.
Well, I just did it.
Okay. I mean, it's
Well,
tough
this
one.
well look
Yes, good
look this
questions.
is this is the level of people that you have to deal with when it comes to dealing with the opposition. Is that you have people who trap themselves in their mother's basement and they sit here and
Mhm.
they go online because they don't have anything else to do, and they sure as shit can't win an argument. So the only thing that they can do is just come out and be offensive as possible, and come out and try to say and do stupid things because they don't have anything else. It is the most empty. I mean, it's pitiful. It really is pitiful to have that little in your life that you can't even argue with a point of view without resorting to, stupid tactics like
Derogatory.
that.
Yeah. Okay. And it's not even. It doesn't add to the conversation. It does absolutely nothing. For anything.
And getting back to the 87,000 IRS people. I mean, listen, we're if nothing else, we always want to be fair about things. The 87,000 number comes from estimates of how many. It's not going to be 87,000 people are going to be filling out applications and hired tomorrow. This is supposed to be over a 10-year period of time, according to what the bill states. And of those 87,000, 50,000 of which are to replace the people who are going to be leaving the IRS through attrition, whether it's by retiring, aging out, people who just quit, get transferred to the other sections of government. So they're saying 50,000 of that is to replace an aging workforce that they already have now, and that the addition is to compensate for expected population growth, that they need more agents to be able to facilitate the monitoring of more accounts over the next 10 years, and that there is such an explosion of digital crypto and electronic currencies that now that they have the $600 or more transfer is going to be being watched, they need more people to do that. It's not going to be 87,000 more agents out there auditing people. It's not going to be 87 more thousand people doing this or doing that. I know everybody got in a panic when they saw the uh, agents are to, be, are you willing to carry a firearm and use deadly force if necessary? All right, where that even came from, I haven't been able to verify that that was actually from the IRS. For all we know, one of those morons that we just booted off of here could have been one of the people that created that document in a matter of trying to goat people from our side to get upset about something. So if we're going to review stuff and we're going to look at it, we want to look at it not only honestly, but from a sanitary point of view. Let's get all the germs off of it, get the dirt off of it, and look
Well,
at it for what it
let's
says.
get the actual facts.
Right. We
Okay. And
don't.
I don't
We don't.
believe
We're
that
not going
all
to.
of them are going to be armed. I do believe that a certain percentage are going to be armed because there is a need for some IRS agents to be armed. Okay. They deal with criminal elements. Okay. Plain and simple. Tax evasion, etc.
Well, if you look at how many times you have somebody that has had a business be raided, and they go in and they do a general seizure because of an asset seizure, asset forfeiture, whatever it is that they want to call, and they have agents come in and do it. This is, for lack of a better word, the enforcement agency or enforcement arm of the IRS, and they are on because you can imagine somebody's going to open fire on them. If they come up, if they feel that they're having this stuff falsely taken from them, or you just have people angry about it. I don't begrudge an agent for wanting to be able to protect themselves. The agent, just because they are an agent of an entity that we don't necessarily curry favor with does not mean we don't still support their right to defend their own lives. We remember that too. Just because you have a job does not mean that you acquiesce your rights because somebody doesn't like the position that you hold. I
Right.
want people to be able to be protected, and if we have a system, let's work it out within that system. But we just don't want people to start getting into a big panic about what they're reading on the internet because 95% of what you're reading on the internet is as false as you could possibly get. So let's really parse it down to the facts and be rational about our discussions, because as soon as you start getting off onto a tangent, you wind up showing up on that jackass show, the Young Turks, because you
Yeah.
said something that they don't find agreeable.
Oh, exactly. And I mean, Solstice is trying to get us drawn into race discussion, and I don't care what color somebody is. Honestly, I could care less. Um, as far as I'm concerned, everybody has something that they can contribute, and the fact that Obama was elected not once but twice and put into office as president means that there's something there. There's something that the people of America liked about him. Now, while I don't necessarily believe in his politics, he was in office and he was reelected into office by the American people. And for that matter alone, we need to give the guy some respect. Okay, we may not necessarily agree with his politics. We may not necessarily agree with the politics of the party that he belongs to. But the fact that he's a black man, I could care less. Okay, he was rightfully elected into office, and he served he served as president. Okay, did he make mistakes? Yeah. Do all presidents make mistakes? Absolutely. I
Were a
don't
lot
think
of his
he's a
were a lot
president.
of his decisions based on a theology that was intended to diminish the United States' greatness? Yes, but that's part of the ideology. And at the current time, that's what I guess the flavor people were going for was they were sick and tired of 8 years of George W. Bush, and went something completely different. You went a completely I can't even say a completely different direction, because if you look back at the 8 years of the Bush administration and how much damage was done to us as a country, because the Bush administration spent 8 years lying to the American people about a shitload of stuff. And Obama's administration spent 8 years lying to us about another set of things.
Mm-hmm.
Every administration is going to have that.
And Trump spent years lying to us about stuff. Okay.
Everybody's got spin.
Exactly.
Here's the thing. Let's look at some of the headlines that have come out, and every single time you hear hear or whatever, something on Twitter, something on the news, it's designed to get somebody riled up. It's designed to piss off the right while making the leftists cheer, or it's going to piss off the leftists and make the right cheer. The fact of the matter is, every single thing that comes out is being done purposefully. So half the American people are pissed off at the other half of the American people. And while you're looking at this policy and they're looking at that policy, and every week everybody's cheering on one side, booing on the other, and then switching, the things that we should be being concerned about are the things that are not getting covered. They're the things that are not being, you know, told to the American people. It's the things that affect all of the American people are the things that we should all be paying more attention to, and the things we should all be being more upset about. Not the things that divide us, but the things that we all rely on. And this administration, as as far as I can see, has been playing a lot of games with the things we all rely on. And while we're all sitting here pointing fingers back and forth at one another, we're all getting the shaft, whether you're on the right side or the left side. So please continue commenting with your snide remarks. Continue with the stupid bullshit that you want to say. Let me explain something to you. You're screwed too. Regardless of what side of the aisle on, you're screwed. And you can take shots at people all day long if you want to. You're getting ripped off just as much. Your freedoms are getting taken just as often, and you're being made a fool of just as many times. So while you want to focus on being angry at people have a different point of view than you, remember that your strings are being not only pulled, but you're getting more tied onto you. And if you're comfortable with that, I feel pretty sorry for you.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I mean, we can take and divide this country up: red, blue, black, white. Uh, I mean, male, female. However you want to divide this country up. But if you look at a lot of the things that are being pushed right now, they all have the intention of dividing us. Every single last one of them. And it's intentional. Okay, because as long as we are divided, we are no longer checking our government. In fact, we are encouraging our government to take steps that they shouldn't be taking in order to thwart the other side, whichever side that of that dichotomy we find ourselves in. We we see this on both the left and the right. We see this um, through just about every issue there is. Okay, we are seeing a lot of stuff going on right now on both the left and the right about how they want to take actions to make it so that the other side can no longer um, be able to hold office, et cetera, et cetera. What makes this country strong is our diversity. What makes this country strong is the fact that we all do not hold the same opinion. What makes this country weak is the fact that we cannot be open minded enough to understand that other people have an alternative opinion. And if we'd actually open ourselves up, open our minds up, and listen to what's being said, we may actually find that our views aren't necessarily so much different as in we have a different means of going about trying to achieve the same results. And honestly, I do believe that people on the left do honestly love their country. It's just they have a different means and different way of trying to do what they think is needed to improve this country.
Well,
Um,
you're a little bit more generous than I am. You know,
well, I
I'm always of the mind if you meet the girl of your dreams and you marry her, you don't spend the rest of your days trying to change her. And the same thing about if you find your husband and you love him, don't spend the rest of your life trying to change him. If you love your country and you like it the way it is, don't try to destroy it. I can understand you wanting to put a tweak here or there because you don't like certain things. You know, your wife might not like the way the husband snores, so you get him a pillow to make him stop, or you smother him with it. Those are your two options. I see a lot of people would rather smother the snorer than try to fix the problem, and I don't necessarily know if I would classify a lot of that as love, but that's just me.
uh, I mean, we ultimately, at
Hey,
the
see,
end of
like
the day,
I'll give you, for instance, I'm sitting here reading the chat, and you say, why can't you even say anything without having a dialogue, and why there's things that aren't even worth even bothering? Matthew, whoever this guy is, at
Mhm.
944 says, because you had mentioned, Trump too is among one of the
Right.
people who didn't always tell the truth when it came to this. And he goes, Trump stuff, and what stuff, dumbass? Instead of saying, Michael, explain, what you believe that he misrepresented or what he lied about. No, you have to have somebody with, come out and instantly start calling names. Where is your civility, Matthew, with
Well,
one T?
actually, let's address that. What stuff? What Trump stuff? Okay. Trump proclaims to be a Second Amendment advocate, but yet Trump, unconstitutionally, mind you, through manipulation of executive order, banned bump stocks. Yeah, everybody will say, "Well, that's nothing. I don't need a bump stock. I don't use bump stocks. I care less about bump stocks." Well, there is one. He also said that he wanted to ban silencers when the Hearing Protection Act was on the floor and set to be passed through the Congress prior to Trump saying that. And when Trump said that, all of a sudden the Hearing Protection Act is no longer in existence.
And mind you, for
That was
those who
to
don't,
take silencers
yeah,
off of the NFA.
yeah, that would have been the first time that anything has ever been removed from the NFA list, and he basically killed it by saying, I'm not a fan of silencers, which they're actually suppressors. There is no such thing as a silencer. And as far as the bump stock ban and why that was so important is because it allowed organizations like the ATF to think that they could run roughshod and that presidents could make policy and make law without it being debated by Congress or the American people. So that was another example of allowing the system to be manipulated by somebody for a personal reason rather than having people have their say. And as far as suppressors go, they're still registered under the NFA. You have to pay a $200 tax stamp, wait however long it takes to get one. But yet in Great Britain, where you have immense gun control, you can walk into a gun store and buy a suppressor without a background check, without a tax stamp, without any documentation at all, because it's considered a safety device. But yet, here in the United States, those of us who, like myself, have suffered tremendous amount of hearing loss would like to be able to preserve what little hearing we have because we shoot all the time. We would that ability was taken from us. So every time I want to go equip one of my firearms with a suppressor, I have to give the government an additional $200 for a device that has been, because of regulation, had their price elevated tenfold to buy that item. So now I have a $600 gun with a $2,000 suppressor and a $200 tax stamp. Why? Because the president doesn't like suppressors. Well, these are two things that why Michael and I get upset with Donald Trump. Another thing that we get upset about Donald Trump about with is, let me remind you of this. Take the guns first, due process can come later. I imagine that was something different. Imagine that was take the house first, due process can come later. Take your job first, due process can come later. Take anything else that you have in this world, and they can take it without due process. Maybe, let's take your car from you, and then due process can come later. Maybe the people who don't own guns, if they were subjected to something like that, may get just as upset about it as those of us in the Second Amendment community do, when a president was willfully willing to support violating your constitutional rights to due process in order to appease a political shit show. Maybe that enough stuff for you, Matt? That would explain why some of us were a little bit upset with the guy. Is that enough? Constitutional violation, is that enough for you? What else would be enough for you? We're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. Mexico hasn't paid for shit. Wall still ain't done. We know that there was an election. We know there's a lot of flimmy crap in there that prevented stuff from being done. But still, it was an asinine statement to make. It was a stupid promise to make.
With a Republican Congress. And he still couldn't get anything done.
There was a lot of things that Trump said, a lot of things that Trump did that we take issue with. Now, I understand that Trump was the right person for the right job, and sometimes if you want to smooth a piece of wood, you got to use the roughest sandpaper that you got. And we know that there's the right tools for the right job. But don't pee on me and tell me it's raining. If you're gonna be abrasive about it, be honest all the time. If your mantra is gonna be, I don't have good bedside manner, but I'm gonna save your life, at least be honest about the procedures you're gonna use. Be honest about the tactics that you're gonna use. And for God's sake, don't violate my rights. Because I'm gonna explain something. When we have our founding documents, and they start out with "we the people." They're written as a collective to express the collective thought of the people that document represents. But when it comes down to it, every single one of us share one thing. Those documents, while describing the people of a nation, it is our duty to explain back to the government, it's not only a matter of we the people, it's a matter of I, the person. Your rights are as individual to you as they are to everybody else. And if you're not going to be upset when somebody violates them for the masses, don't bitch about
because
it
they belong to the same political party you do. Okay. It's to the point now where this cultist mentality on both the left and the right is getting extreme. And that's what we need to honestly start thinking. What was this nation actually founded upon? What principles was this nation founded on? And until we start looking back at that and start looking back at the principles that we grew a nation from, grew the greatest nation in the world from, until we start getting back to some of those principles, we're going to continue to see a lot of the fallout politically. We're going to see a lot of our rights removed, etc. I heard a fact today: the largest employer in the world, not the United States, in the world, is the United States federal government. They have more employees than any other employer.
Well, they have the largest office building in the world, so why not the most amount of employees as well?
Well, I mean, let's look at some anti-free governments. Okay, anti-freedom governments. The Chinese government, which has a population that greatly exceeds ours. The Chinese government doesn't even have as many employees as the United States federal government.
Well, here's the thing. And if you think about it, why would they? Think of it. When you have ultimate control over your people, you have less need to guard them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Why is it that like you could, if you have a herd of sheep, you only need two good dogs to control all of them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but if you got a sheep, a cow, an ostrich, and 400 other different kind of animals, and you want to keep them all corralled, you're going to need one animal to herd each one of those others. So when you have a bunch of people controlled, you need less people to do the controlling, especially when you have people that are disarmed.
Right.
One guy with a gun can hold hostage a whole shitload of people. So that's why they need as many people working for our government as possible, because it's more of an independent we care screwing that our government wants to give us, as opposed to just the generic screw everybody that you get in other countries.
Looks like we lost some of our.
Trollers.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, if you can't run a simple conversation with somebody, then there's absolutely no reason to even discuss anything with you. And yeah, it's a shame that this is what it's come to. And it was funny because I just noticed one little thing that I did, and I just seemed to see a whole bunch of diminished space in the box.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that was the result of one person.
Yeah. So yeah, there's actually a lot in here in the chat tonight, and I was going to leave most of it go because honestly, they think they're making fools of us, but in reality, they're doing nothing but making a fool of themselves.
Well, I just closed that out because my old eyes are getting harder to differentiate between one comment and the other, and I don't want to miss somebody who matters because
Right.
some jackass puts their voice out.
Mm-hmm. So, and I mean, ultimately, when it comes down to it, okay, the Constitution didn't make our government. The Constitution doesn't even control our government. And at the end of the day, the Constitution was ultimately to make our government predictable, to make it so that we, the people, could predict how our government would act in a certain instance. We no longer can do that because the constitutional violations that are happening within our government and that we, the people, are allowing to happen makes it so that our government is no longer predictable. It makes it so that we no longer know. We don't know how a president is going to act. We no longer know how our Congress is going to act. We no longer know how our Supreme Court is going to act because each of them has routinely violated the Constitution throughout the history of this country. And we, the people, instead of holding them accountable, have accepted it. And every time we accept these egregious constitutional violations, we take and say, it's okay. We're going to allow this. It's okay. We no longer care. And we allow government to, instead of working for us, change everything. And now it's us working for the government. The taxes that we pay are us working for the government. And we're paying for the privilege of doing so.
Yeah, a government that has the ability to print enough money to constantly keep our rights away from us by being able to outspend us at any term. And if they can't outspend us, they'll outprint us. And the more they print, the less our money's worth, and the more that they have to be able to use to fight against us. The system is badly rigged right now, and until and unless the American people get a hold of it and start realizing that we're all getting played, it's just not going to get. It's not going to get any better. And Jan's right. Rigged elections don't help. And it sure as shit is. I can't. I find myself just sitting here getting so frustrated, and I'm like, I can't let this constantly be the thing that just plugs up my mind. You know, I have a life, I have responsibilities, I got things I need to do. I try not to let this eat up every moment of my free time with how frustrating everything is. But every time I walk outside the house, I see another example of government gone wild and how
Well,
little.
look at New York this week. Okay. 20, you are required to be 21 years of age in order to purchase a can of whipped cream.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, come on.
Yeah, you're gonna inconvenience, what is it? How many New Yorkers are there now? 14 million.
Yeah.
You're gonna inconvenience. You're gonna put legal handcuffs on 14 million New Yorkers because a couple of kids go out and get a can of whipped cream and get a 3-second buzz off some nitrous oxide. Let me explain something, New York. The kids aren't buying whipped cream. They're not buying whipped cream. The parents buy the whipped cream. It's not until the can's almost empty that the kid figures out that he can get himself a buzz from it. The kids are out buying other shit that's a lot worse than whipped cream. But no, you go ahead. You focus on Ready Whip. Ready Whip is the big killer. Right after the Gel Blaster BB guns. Yeah,
Well,
it was ridiculous. I saw that come out. Governor Hokum, or whatever the hell her name is over there, she was so proud to be protecting New York's youth by signing into law a measure that is going to greatly diminish their ability to get a controlled substance, nitrous oxide, which is used as the propellant in whipped cream cans, so that they can. If you look at that woman's tweet history, I swear to God, every other tweet, especially since the Roe v. Wade decision came down, every single tweet is about killing the unborn. It's every other tweet. We in New York, we're going to stand for a woman, because it used to be the right to choose. Now that the mask has been pulled off, it's just abortion rights. It's no longer a matter of health care. It's no longer a matter of choice. It's a matter of just abortions. We want to make sure that every New York woman can abort their baby. We want to make sure that birthing people from other. I have to correct myself every time. They keep changing the fucking language on me. You know, that birthing people from other states can be sure to come to New York and abort their baby. This is what every other tweet is. Every other tweet. Abort your baby, abort your baby, abort your baby. But we're taking steps to ensure the safety of all our beloved children by making whipped cream a controlled substance.
Well,
which children are you trying to protect? The ones you didn't friggin' kill while they were still in the womb, or the ones that had the potential to become voters at one point? Make up your friggin' mind.
This is a far worse problem in America than whipped cream. They've been seizing all across the United States colored fentanyl pills. Okay, and I think that is a lot worse of a threat to our children than a damn can of Ready Whip.
It's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing that people had to take the time, with all the pressing, urgent matters that are up against New Yorkers, Americans, whatever state these jackasses are wasting time in. They take so much time to debate bullshit because they don't have solutions for the problems that they've created. So they need to create another monster to fight so that they have something to debate.
So they can distract from the monsters they've already created.
Yeah. So they could justify their existence and make us forget about all the other crap. So it's another avenue of another something for us to get upset about while, if you've ever played 3-card Monte, you don't watch the 3 cards that are on the board. There's always a distraction someplace, and politics has become the biggest shell game going. It's just a matter of what can we dangle in front of the people to keep them distracted long enough while we do something that controls everybody instead of just the opposition party. Because leftists need to understand something. It's not just conservatives' rights that they're trying to take. They're trying to take yours too, but you're too blinded to understand it. You don't understand. Listen, red flag laws, you don't have to own a gun for somebody to drop a red flag on, order on you. No, and then let me explain to you how it works for the people that are big supporters of it. And you say, well, I don't even own a gun, so it doesn't apply to me. No, right? They get a judge to sign off on a red flag order. They come to your house. They turn your house upside down. We didn't find any guns. But that doesn't mean you don't own one. So now they're going to go to your job. And they're going to look in your locker at your job. They're going to look in your car. And then they're going to extend it to your parents' house, or your wife's parents' house, or your husband's parents' house. Wherever they think we know you have a gun. We know you. You might never have owned one. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because now in this country, because of people like you and people who say, take this first and due process later, you're guilty before you're proven innocent in this country now. That's the new law. Well, if you had anything to hide, you wouldn't, why would you worry if you don't have anything to hide? Well, you know what? While they're busy looking for the gun that you don't have, that they insist that you do, they still are going to notify Child Protective Services that you have a dangerous environment for your kids. And while you're over there trail-assing around them, trying to explain to them why you don't have a gun, CPS agents are at your house putting your kids in the back of their car so they can put them into foster care while you're under investigation. Those who feed the alligator wind up on the menu. You're on the fucking menu. You just don't know it yet.
Well, we've already seen this play out. Okay, we saw an uncle red flag, not because of his comments, but because of comments of a nephew of his. We saw an uncle had all of his firearms taken because of a comment a nephew made.
It's insane. You have to realize, people, listen, government is a necessary evil, but they are not your servants any longer, and they sure as hell are not your friend. So just when you think that, they're only out to get the conservatives because, the left is in control. Listen, they're out to get you too. They are out to get you too, because they know that one day the people who sit in the heads of power are going to be of a different party. It's all the bureaucracy that's so deeply embedded into all of those agencies that doesn't ever change. Doesn't matter who's running the show. That don't change. These are the people that want control. This is what we call shadow government. These are the people that institute the policy, that want the control, that want the power, because it's the way they advance their agenda. To them, it doesn't matter who's at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. They don't care who the Speaker of the House is. They don't care who the Senate majority leaders and minority leaders are. They don't give a shit. They don't give a shit, because it's all going to change. All of that changes. It's a cyclical process, just like global warming. So they don't care. They honestly don't, because they're not interested in making sure they can control the left or they can control the right. They just want to control us all. And while you're looking to fight with us about stuff, we're trying to just wake you the hell up and say, listen, it's not a left or right issue. This is an American issue. And until and unless you understand that, you're aiding and abetting a crime.
Okay. Watching trains goes by. There's a difference between being unaware about the economy and lying about the economy. Blinder sounds way too soft. We did get into that a little bit early on in our live stream. Watching trains go by. Yeah, blind. It's not blinders. Okay, he is outright lying. He's trying to spin the unemployment numbers to make it like our economy is growing. And when the fact is our economy is actually being destroyed. Um, so yeah, that is something that we did discuss earlier, and we do invite you to go back and watch the beginning of this. This will be up on YouTube and on Facebook, and we do encourage everybody to go back and watch from the beginning. Okay, Jan Rains, and we love Jan. Jan's been with us from the beginning. I don't think she's missed a single live stream that we've done.
Although she has not taken up us on our offer to come and appear on with us, but she's
No,
here
she
every
hasn't.
week in spirit and in word.
Yes, and she's always very active in the chat. So Jan, we love you and we appreciate you showing up every week. Okay. So she says, and all these people who are helping them will one day be treated the same because the elite won't need them anymore. Jan, we may think that the elite are the ones that are being elected to office. No, they're not. The elite are the ones that we never hear about. That they are the people that we don't know their names. These are like the second and third level down in the government agencies, in the ATF, in the FBI, in Homeland Security, in Immigration Custom, um, in the EPA. I mean, you name it, whatever government agency you want to name. These are the people that are down at the third and fourth level. They have enough seniority that they are actually running the show because the ones above them get changed out every administration or every few administrations. But they are the ones that have been there and have got 30, 40, 50 years in these agencies. And they are the ones that are actually running the show. And they don't understand. We the people don't realize just how much they are the ones actually running our government. Um, those are the ones that we need to be worried about. And these are unelected people. They are put in place um, by no control over people that we hold accountable. Um, Plain and simple, these are the ones that we need to be worried about because
Well,
they have zero accountability to the American people.
well,
They have zero accountability to Congress or even the president.
I'll give you a perfect example, perfect name, Lois Lerner. Lois Lerner was a mid-card player at the IRS who was the one who decided on her own that she was going to target Tea Party patriot groups that filed for 501c3 applications through the IRS. She was the one that was calling the shots on getting people audited, holding up their applications, violating their rights, violating their due process. She wasn't elected to anything. She wasn't appointed to anything. This is a mid-level bureaucrat that had more power than the head of the IRS. Because let me tell you something: the head of the IRS is not necessarily, you know, a finance guy. He's a friend of the president who gets the job. It's like our ambassadors. How many of our ambassadors that we have for the 200 some odd countries that we have ambassadors for have any diplomatic experience? They're donors. They're political donors who wind up getting an appointment. So you're the ambassador to so and so they can get free luxury trips around the world. And yet they're out there trying to broker deals for us. These people have no experience doing that kind of stuff. There is more at play about people having authority in this country than you could ever imagine. And then and this is how you wind up with needing to be 21 years old to buy friggin' whipped cream. This is
Yeah.
how it happens.
So,
This is how it happens. This is how it happened. That what was it that I remember not that long ago, you having people being up in arms over $1,500 hammers,
mhm.
$8,000 toilet seats.
Yep.
When the people at the top don't have, does anybody remember when George Herbert Walker Bush was asked how much a gallon of milk cost? And he had absolutely no idea. The man hadn't done shopping for himself in 35 years. That man is supposed to be able to relate to Joe Average. Doesn't know how much a gallon of milk cost at the time. These people are out of touch. They're out of step. So they rely on the people below them to make decisions. The people below them are appointed because they're friends or they're a political favor. So what do? They rely on the people below them. Those are the people who've been entrenched for 50 years. Those are the ones that control everything. And if you think I'm lying, look at, I mean, how many people in the Trump administration changed out in the first year? How many people were we all screaming about when he says, "Well, I'm going to clean the swamp"? Well, how do you clean the swamp if your skimmer basket is filthy? You can't scoop no more out of it. He had his filthy skimmer basket. Every friggin' creature in the swamp was still clinging to that office. Instead of
And the thing
cleaning
is,
house and starting with a fresh slate, he had swamp monsters in there, and everybody said, "Well, he needs people to show him around, because they understand the system." There's one thing you need to understand about the system: the whole friggin' thing is corrupt. When you understand that one fundamental fact, it doesn't matter who shows you what. You fire everybody,
and
and you put people in to do the right job.
the thing is everybody's looking at Congress as being the swamp. No, that's not the swamp. Okay.
Well, trains. If hitting your thumb was an art form with the hammer, yeah, I'll give you. Let me just give you one hint as far as driving nails. And this is something I learned the hard way. Although this is a 5.56 round, let's make believe it's a nail, just for argument's sake. I don't have a hammer, so I'll just don't hold the nail like this and then tap it in. Don't do that. That's how you wind up getting your fingers done. What you do is you hold your nail like a cigarette, and you hold it like this, and then you set it this way. So at least if you miss, you hit the fat of your fingers where you have a little bit more ability to absorb the impact than you do the tops of your fingers where your nails go black instantly. Just a little tip from you. Hey, home improvement tips is something that we do here on the show. So just to let you know, and next week is barbecue recipes and beef jerky. Downstairs I've got 2 pounds of Black Angus eye round in the dehydrator, making our spicy jerky. So next week we'll have jerky recipes.
Actually, we've been using Carolina mustard sauce for barbecue sauce here recently. Oh man, that stuff is tasty.
No, when you come down for a visit, we'll let you experience the real thing.
Well, I've experienced it because I was in North Carolina for
Oh, that's right. You were at you trained here.
yeah, yeah. I was stationed in New River, and then I lived in Havelock for another 5 years. So yeah,
You were never stationed at Lejeune, were you?
I was stationed across the river from Lejeune.
All right, so different water supply.
No.
Oh, all right. Well, you were there after the cleanup or before?
Before I was there from 86 to 89.
Uh, Sign on, buddy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Sign on. Protect your interests because nobody else is going to.
I need to. I need to get evaluated because that could potentially be some of the issues that I'm facing here as of late.
I was going to say the Lejeune water might have been why you went off the road that day.
Yeah.
Because well, let's not get into our hipper shit here. But listen, it's 10:25. We're an hour and a half into the show this evening. I've had a very productive couple of days here at the house trying to get stuff done for the L1F, and tomorrow's a continuation of that. But I am currently exhausted, so I'm going to be calling it a night and say, good night to all of you, and thank you all for joining us tonight. And on behalf of myself, you guys be safe and shoot straight, and I'll let Michael do our traditional sign off.
Now, I want to thank everybody again for joining the show, contributing conversation, even the trolls out there. Okay, because it actually gave us some stuff to talk about. And when our audience joins in the conversation, that actually makes things better for us. It gives us a better show, it gives us um, better dialogues. Okay, like I said, we have our positions on various issues and so forth, and we do invite anybody to challenge us on our positions and to open up a dialogue with us. With that, I'm going to go ahead and say goodnight. We are here every Friday night, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We do encourage you to join in on the conversation, post comments, and just sit back and watch. Don't care. But one of the biggest ways that you can help us to get the word out is to like, share this live stream. Okay, let people know about us. Okay, you can also find us at l1f.us. Please share our website as well. And with that, we're going to go ahead and say goodnight, and we will see you guys again next week. Thank you.
Peace. Night, Jay.